Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're talking about something absolutely incredible that happened in K-pop history, something so groundbreaking that even the person who achieved it couldn't quite believe it was real. We're talking about Jimin of BTS becoming the first Korean solo artist to reach #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, and what makes this story even more beautiful is his reaction to it. According to a feature article, when this historic achievement happened, Jimin himself said he didn't expect it at all, and his humble response to making history is honestly one of the most touching things you'll hear today. So if you're ready to dive into this incredible story about talent, humility, and breaking barriers that people thought were impossible to break, make sure you hit that subscribe button and let's get into it. Let me start by setting the scene for you because context matters here. We're talking about March 2023, which was still during the period when BTS members were pursuing solo projects while some were completing military service. The K-pop industry and music industry in general were watching closely to see how individual BTS members would perform on their own, whether the massive success of BTS as a group could translate to solo achievements, and whether Korean artists could break through certain barriers that had historically been very difficult to overcome. The Billboard Hot 100 #1 spot has always been considered one of the most challenging achievements in music because it's not just about talent or popularity in one region, it requires massive streaming numbers, radio play, and sales across the United States, which has historically been a tough market for non-English language artists to crack at the very top level. When Jimin released his solo work, expectations were obviously high because he's part of BTS and has a dedicated fanbase, but nobody, including Jimin himself apparently, fully anticipated what was about to happen. The song we're talking about is Like Crazy, and it didn't just perform well, it didn't just chart, it went straight to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, making Jimin the first Korean solo artist ever to achieve this. Think about what that means for a second. We've had Korean groups chart, we've had collaborations, we've had features, but a Korean solo artist with a primarily Korean language song hitting that #1 spot, that had never happened before until Jimin did it. And according to the article, when this happened, Jimin's reaction was essentially one of disbelief and humility rather than triumphant celebration, which tells you everything you need to know about his character. The article describes certain qualities that make Jimin stand out, and I want to talk about this carefully because it's important to understand what makes his achievement even more remarkable. Even within BTS, a group that's filled with incredibly talented vocalists and performers with strong individual presences, Jimin has always had this distinctive quality that captures attention. His voice has this unique tone that's immediately recognizable, and his performance style has this magnetism that draws you in whether you're watching him in a group performance or a solo stage. These aren't just subjective fan opinions, these are qualities that music professionals and critics have consistently noted throughout his career. The fact that he could take these qualities and translate them into solo success at the highest possible level, reaching #1 on the Hot 100, proves that his talent and appeal extend far beyond the group context. Now let's talk about what makes Like Crazy reaching #1 even more significant in the timeline of events. This happened months before 7 by Jungkook, another BTS member, also reached #1. So Jimin was literally first, he opened the door, he proved it was possible, he set the precedent that a Korean solo artist could reach that peak. And yet, based on the quote shared in the article, his response to this achievement wasn't about claiming firsts or celebrating victories, it was about recognizing that there's still more to learn and further to go. There's something incredibly mature and admirable about achieving something historic and your first thought being not "I've made it" but rather "I still have a long way to go." That kind of mindset is what separates artists who have one big moment from artists who continue to grow and evolve throughout their careers. The quote that really captures this is powerful in its simplicity and honesty. The article shares that Jimin acknowledged he didn't expect this achievement at all, but through the process of reaching this milestone, he learned something important about himself and his journey. He learned that despite reaching what many would consider the peak, the ultimate goal, he still has a long way to go in his artistic development. That's not false modesty, that's not playing down his achievement, that's genuine artistic mindset where you recognize that every achievement is also a new starting point, every peak you reach reveals new mountains in the distance that you want to climb. This perspective is what keeps artists hungry, what keeps them innovative, what prevents them from resting on their laurels. Let's talk about the broader impact of this achievement because it goes beyond just Jimin's personal success. When he became the first Korean solo artist to hit #1 on the Hot 100, he didn't just achieve something for himself, he opened doors for every Korean solo artist who comes after him. He proved that the barrier could be broken, that it wasn't an impossible dream, that Korean solo artists could compete at the absolute highest level of global music charts. That's legacy building, that's history making, that's the kind of achievement that changes the landscape of an entire industry. Young Korean artists who are working on their solo careers now can look at what Jimin did and know that it's achievable, that they have a template to follow, that the ceiling has been broken. The timing of this achievement also matters in the larger BTS narrative. This happened during a period when the group was on hiatus for military service and solo projects, which meant each member was essentially proving their individual worth and talent outside the group context. There were questions from some skeptics about whether BTS members could succeed individually, whether their massive success was purely a group phenomenon or whether they had individual staying power. Jimin reaching #1 on the Hot 100 as a solo artist answered that question definitively and emphatically. It proved that yes, BTS members have individual talent and appeal that can translate to the highest levels of success even without the group backing them up. What's also interesting is how this achievement fits into the larger story of K-pop's global expansion. We've seen K-pop grow from a primarily regional genre to a global phenomenon over the past decade or so, and there have been various milestones along the way. Groups charting on Billboard, sold-out world tours, collaborations with Western artists, but each new barrier broken represents another step in that journey of global recognition and acceptance. Jimin's #1 as a Korean solo artist is one of those major barriers, one of those milestone moments that future K-pop historians will point to as a turning point. It's similar to when BTS first topped the Billboard 200, or when Dynamite hit #1 on the Hot 100 for the group. These are moments that change what's considered possible. The article's description of Jimin's qualities as an artist also helps explain why he was the one to break this particular barrier. Having a distinctive voice and strong stage presence isn't enough on its own to reach #1 on the Hot 100, plenty of talented artists never get there, but those qualities combined with the right song, the right timing, the right promotional strategy, and yes, a dedicated fanbase willing to stream and purchase, created the perfect storm for this historic achievement. And what's beautiful is that Jimin seems to understand that all these factors came together, which is probably why his response was humble recognition rather than individual ego. Let me talk about what this means for representation because that's also an important part of this story. When a Korean artist achieves something like this, it's not just about music charts and commercial success, it's about representation and visibility for Asian artists in a global music industry that has historically been dominated by Western, primarily English-language artists. Every time a barrier is broken, every time someone achieves something that was previously thought impossible for artists from their background, it matters for representation, it matters for opening doors, it matters for changing perceptions. Jimin becoming the first Korean solo artist to hit #1 on the Hot 100 is a significant moment for Asian representation in global pop music. The song itself, like Crazy, is also worth discussing in terms of what it represents artistically. Without getting into detailed analysis that might reproduce too much specific content, the song showcases Jimin's vocal abilities and emotional delivery in a way that clearly resonated with a massive audience. The fact that a primarily Korean language song could reach #1 on a US chart that has historically favored English language music is itself a statement about how global music consumption has evolved. We're in an era now where language barriers matter less than they used to, where listeners are willing to embrace music in languages they don't speak if the artistry and emotion connect with them. Jimin's success is both a result of that shift and a confirmation that it's real and lasting. Now let's address something that I think is important about how achievements like this are received and discussed. There's sometimes a tendency to downplay solo achievements by BTS members by attributing everything to the group's existing fanbase, as if individual achievement doesn't count because ARMY was already there supporting. But that's a misunderstanding of how this works. Yes, having a dedicated fanbase certainly helps, but that fanbase exists because of talent and connection that each member has built over years. And more importantly, reaching #1 on the Hot 100 requires more than just a fanbase streaming, it requires the song to connect with casual listeners, to get radio play, to spread beyond the core fanbase. So while ARMY's support was definitely a crucial factor, Jimin's #1 represents genuine broad appeal, not just fandom power. The article's revelation about Jimin's surprise at his own achievement also tells us something interesting about how he views his own career and success. In an industry where confidence and self-promotion are often necessary for success, there's something refreshing about an artist who achieves something historic and is genuinely surprised by it. It suggests that he wasn't chasing the record for its own sake, wasn't calculating his chances or expecting the outcome, but was focused on the music itself, and the achievement came as an organic result of that focus. That's a healthy mindset for long-term artistic success because it keeps the focus on craft and connection rather than on metrics and achievements. His statement about learning that he still has far to go despite this achievement also speaks to artistic maturity. Many artists might reach number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and feel like they've arrived, like they've reached the peak and can now coast on that success. But Jimin's response was essentially to recognize that this achievement, as significant as it is, doesn't mean his artistic journey is complete. There are still things to learn, skills to develop, emotions to explore, musical territories to venture into. That growth mindset is what separates good artists from great ones, and it's what suggests that this number 1 achievement, as historic as it is, might not even be Jimin's peak but rather one stop on a longer journey of artistic development. Let's also talk about the timing in relation to military service because that adds another layer to this story. The article mentions that Jimin enlisted around the same time as this achievement, which means he reached this historic milestone and then immediately had to step away from music promotion and activities to fulfill his military duty. There's something poignant about that, about achieving something you've worked your whole career toward and then having to pause and step back rather than capitalizing on the momentum. But it also shows commitment to fulfilling responsibilities even when it might not be the most convenient timing from a career perspective. And knowing that he's achieved this milestone before military service means he's coming back with that historic achievement as part of his legacy and foundation to build on. The broader K-pop industry has definitely noticed and been influenced by Jimin's achievement. When one artist breaks a barrier, it changes what other artists and their teams believe is possible and what they should aim for. We've already seen more Korean solo artists charting higher on Billboard since Jimin's number 1, and while each artist's success is their own, there's no doubt that Jimin proving it was possible has influenced industry strategy and artist confidence. That's the nature of barrier-breaking achievements. They don't just mark individual success, they change the landscape for everyone who comes after. I want to come back to the element of humility in Jimin's response because I think it's worth emphasizing. We live in an era where self-promotion and confidence are often equated with success, where artists are expected to celebrate their achievements loudly and claim their victories. And there's nothing wrong with that, artists should be proud of their work and success. But there's also something powerful about the alternative approach that Jimin seems to embody, where achievement is met with gratitude and recognition of how much further there is to go. It's not about being self-deprecating or failing to recognize the significance of what you've accomplished, it's about maintaining perspective and staying focused on growth rather than resting on accomplishment. The fact that this story is being told and retold through major music publications also shows the significance of the achievement. When a mainstream music outlet features a story about a K-pop artist's achievement with this level of detail and respect, it indicates that the achievement is being recognized beyond just K-pop fan circles, it's being acknowledged as legitimately significant within the broader music industry. That kind of mainstream recognition and validation is important for the continued global growth of K-pop and for individual artists building careers that transcend genre categorization. Looking at this achievement in the context of Jimin's overall career trajectory, it's a significant milestone, but it also fits into a larger pattern of consistent growth and artistic development. From his early days in BTS showing his dance abilities and unique vocal color, to developing as a songwriter and taking on more creative control, to now proving his solo viability at the highest level, his career shows steady progression rather than overnight success. The number 1 on the Hot 100 is the most visible and headline-worthy achievement, but it's the result of years of work, development, and artistic growth that led to this moment. For ARMY and fans who've supported Jimin throughout his career, this achievement was probably a moment of incredible pride mixed with a sense of validation. When you believe in an artist's talent and potential for years, and then see them achieve something historic that proves their talent on the biggest possible stage, it's deeply satisfying. And Jimin's humble response to the achievement probably made fans proud in a different way, proud not just of what he achieved but of who he is as a person and how he handles success with grace and continued hunger for growth. This story ultimately is about more than just chart positions and records, though those are certainly important and worth celebrating. It's about an artist who worked hard, developed his craft, connected with audiences, and achieved something historic while maintaining humility and perspective. It's about barriers being broken and doors being opened for others to follow. It's about the evolution of global music consumption and the decreasing relevance of language barriers when artistry is strong enough. And it's about the power of staying focused on growth and learning even when you've reached what others might consider the peak. Jimin becoming the first Korean solo artist to reach #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 is a historic achievement that will be remembered, but his response to that achievement, his recognition that there's still further to go, might be just as important for his long-term artistic legacy. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for more K-pop content, and let me know in the comments what you think about Jimin's incredible achievement and his humble response to it. I'll see you in the next video.